Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining the Trust Fabric talk. I'm Klaus-Michael Vogelberg and Chair Architecture at Sage. Trust, according to the English dictionary, is the firm belief in the reliability, truth, or ability of someone or something. Business cannot function without knowing whom and what to trust. Trust is somewhat intangible, built over years and lost in seconds, as the saying goes. Yet, without technologies to express trust in a digital, programmable way, we cannot become a digital society. Blockchain is said to be the world's first trustless technology, and in fact, trustless was one of the top technology trends in 2019, even though this is in itself a bit of an oxymoron. So this talk is about digital trust and an innovative concept of a trust fabric to bring greater efficiency to business processes that Sage has been developing in partnership with Amazon and the University of Sunderland. This brings me to introduce and welcome my co-presenters, Dr. Kate McFarlane, Senior Computer Scientist at the University of Sunderland, and Dan Blainer, QLDB Solutions Architect at Amazon Web Services. Thank you for joining me today. Let's take a quick look at the agenda. Underpinning Trust Fabric is a new type of database with immutable and cryptographically verifiable transactions, Amazon Quantum Ledger Database. Dan will kick us off with a technology overview and introduction to QLDB. I will follow next and explain how Trust Fabric facilitates trust in a business network and what customer problem this solves. And last, but by no means least, Kate will talk about our collaboration with the University of Sunderland and how their students are helping Sage and Amazon to move from ideation to incubation. And with this, I pass over to Dan.
Hi, my name is Dan Blainer, a solutions architect with AWS. Today I'll be talking about Amazon Quantum Ledger Database, or QLDB, and why you might need a ledger database. Humans have kept ledgers for thousands of years to record financial transactions, to keep balances, and register significant events like births, transfers of land ownership, emigrations, etc. Ledgers keep a historical record of all transactions over time. Humans have switched from using paper to record their transactions to using computer databases. However, because of the high cost of data storage, databases are designed to overwrite existing data during an update to save space and do not keep a complete history of transactions over time. A lot has changed since the relational database was invented. Storage is many times cheaper than it was. Distributed systems increase availability, durability, scalability, and efficiency. Cloud computing has made almost limitless storage available to customers at affordable costs, making it possible to store a complete history of ledger transactions over time in a single database. Some may ask, why does immutability and verifiability matter for a database? There are several reasons. Number one, to reduce risk, to safeguard critical system of record applications where data loss could be expensive. Two, to improve data tracking. Immutability helps you track your data's entire lineage. Three, because it increases the efficiency of audits and expands audit capabilities. And last, because building immutability and verifiability in a traditional way is time-consuming, complex, and expensive. Many customers ask, why can't I just do this with my relational database? And the answer is you can. You can create audit tables and set up triggers to send data to those audit tables. However, this requires a bit of work to set up and maintain. Database administration tasks like restores can potentially disrupt the audit tables or disrupt the triggers. Finally, and most importantly, there's always someone with sufficient privileges to change the source data or the audit history. This can be critical if you're facing regulatory, audit, or legal scrutiny. Some customers try using blockchain frameworks. However, blockchains were meant for a different purpose. They were designed to operate in limited trust peer-to-peer network configurations. There are a lot of moving parts in a blockchain that help it operate in that architecture. If you don't need that functionality, then there's no sense dealing with the operational complexity that it brings. Our customers have what we call system of record applications. These are applications that require history, data completeness, and data integrity. A ledger provides these qualities out of the box, but they come in two flavors. The first is a decentralized ledger. These are for companies who want peers or consortiums to work together and share data with one another without a trusted central authority. This approach allows multiple parties to agree on a protocol for recording transactions and distributes a copy of the transaction ledger to each participant for independent verification. This means that no single participant owns the application or the data, and thus the business application becomes highly efficient. Examples here are financial services, supply chain and manufacturing, and others like mortgage lenders and retail organizations. To help customers operate decentralized ledger, AWS created Amazon Managed Blockchain, a managed service that helps customers set up and operate blockchain networks with Hyperledger Fabric. The second flavor of ledger is centralized. When talking about centralized use cases, this ledger serves as a transparent, immutable, and verifiable record for a company's applications, and it does not have the notion of decentralized trust or data sharing across nodes. Example use cases can be seen in healthcare, manufacturing, finance, government, and many others. For centralized ledger use cases, AWS created Amazon Quantum Ledger Database, or QLDB. So what is QLDB? QLDB is a fully managed ledger database that maintains a complete and verifiable history of changes over time. QLDB is a first-of-its-kind, purpose-built ledger database. It is composed of two main components. First is the immutable journal, which is a cryptographically verifiable log of each transaction. Second is the current state and index history, which stores the current value and historical state of the data. When application data comes in, it gets logged to the journal first, and then is propagated into the tables and indexes. QLDB has a journal-first architecture where all changes to the system are written transactionally into an immutable append-only log called the journal. Every new transaction is stored as a new block in the journal, and the blocks are cryptographically hash-chained together, much like a blockchain. The journal is not an easy format for applications to use, so we simultaneously maintain tables of the current state and an index history of each document. That allows users to query the tables with a SQL-compatible query language. Furthermore, QLDB provides ACID-compliant serializable transactions, a flexible document data model, and the serverless capability, allowing customers to not worry about provisioning capacity or read-write limits. One of the biggest benefits to QLDB is that it's easy to use. By offering these features, it's fast and easy to build applications on QLDB, and it's not unusual to have a working prototype with your data model and queries within an afternoon. When an application needs to modify data in a document, it does so in a transaction. Within a transaction, data is read from QLDB, updated, and committed to the journal. QLDB writes one or more chained blocks to the journal in a transaction, and each block contains entry objects that represent the document revisions that you insert, update, and delete. The diagram shows that a block is committed to the journal during a transaction and results in a document revision entry within that block. It also shows that each block is hashed for verification and has a sequence number to specify its address. QLDB is immutable thanks to its journal. Because the QLDB journal is append-only, it keeps a full record of all changes to your data that cannot be deleted, modified, or overwritten. There are no APIs or other methods to alter any committed data. This enables you to access and query the full history of your ledger. QLDB uses SHA-256 as its cryptographic hash function. Hash functions provide encryption using an algorithm and no key. They are called one-way hash functions because there is no way to reverse the encryption. No matter what the content of your document or transaction is, it is hashed into a fixed length hash value, which is often called a message digest or simply a hash. By comparing hashes of data calculated at two different points in time, you can determine whether or not the data has changed. You can combine hashes into a new hash to chain them together into a new 256-bit value. Hash chaining creates a dependency and is useful for determining if any data used in the hash chain has been changed. QLDB uses cryptography to create a concise summary of your change history. This secure summary, commonly known as a digest, is generated using a SHA-256 hash function. The digest acts as a proof of your data's change history, allowing you to look back and verify the integrity of your data changes. You can use this digest with QLDB's API to prove the integrity of any transaction. While QLDB's data history is immutable, verifiability is useful for business scenarios where you need a proof related to a specific transaction. For example, an e-commerce business may need to show proof of a winning bid, a financial institution may need to prove its specific transaction against an account, or a biotech company may need to prove a sample's data hasn't been altered. QLDB provides ACID-compliant transaction processing at the serializable isolation level. The serializable isolation level provides the most concurrency protection, eliminating the potential for phantom reads, non-repeatable reads, dirty reads, and write skew. The serializable isolation level is available in relational databases but incurs a significant performance penalty. Due to the nature of QLDB's journal, QLDB is able to provide this highest level of concurrency protection with no impact on performance. QLDB is serverless and highly available. The service automatically scales to support the demands of your application, and you don't need to provision instances or capacity. Multiple copies of your data are replicated within an availability zone and across availability zones in an AWS region. In order to make development easy, we adopted the philosophy of open sourcing our client libraries, frameworks, and utilities. QLDB is queried using an open source SQL-like language called Particle. Data is stored in QLDB in the form of Amazon Ion documents. Amazon Ion is a superset of JSON that adds native data typing. AWS offers drivers for QLDB in a variety of programming languages, and those drivers are available on GitHub. We've also released sample applications and tutorials, all available on GitHub as well. QLDB now supports streaming using Kinesis data streams. Every change to the journal is pushed into the data stream, allowing applications to respond to those events in near real time. Customers can use QLDB streams to drive event-based applications, to perform real-time analytics, and to send data into other database engines to support search, analytics, reporting, and other access patterns that require a purpose-built database. Customers have been using relational databases for decades for use cases that may not be optimal for that particular technology. AWS offers a collection of database technologies that are purpose-built for different use cases. Our goal is to make sure customers always have the right tool for every job. QLDB introduces the ledger database category, purpose-built to provide a complete, immutable, and verifiable history of data for your system of record applications. QLDB is used across a variety of industries and for a lot of different interesting use cases. It's used in core banking. So here we have traditional banking ledger solutions focused on debits and credits to personal and or business accounts. For payment systems, these are systems providing settlement of financial transactions through the transfer of monetary value, including the institutions, instruments, people, rules, procedures, standards, and technologies that make exchanges possible. And for clearing and settlements, these are systems to track actual exchange of money or some other value and updating the accounts of trading parties. We serve use cases in manufacturing and logistics, such as supply chain. Here, pre-sale systems are designed to track items at various stages of manufacturing or distribution. This can include origin source of raw materials, transportation logistics, and what assets were allocated together in a larger asset. For inventory management, these are systems designed to track quantity available of assets and the transactions against those items. And asset provenance, for tracking a product, either digital or physical, through all stages of ownership, most notably tracking events that occur against the product like a service performed on it or transfer of ownership. And in other notable use cases, for example, digital wallets. This is similar to a traditional ledger system. A digital wallet tracks a resource, a token, credit, etc., for a user or business account that allows the end users to purchase or trade for a service or asset. There are activity trackers, systems designed to track various states of an end user's account and to provide a historical record of all actions taken against the account, from user requests and updates to deactivation. And finally, for data marketplaces. These are systems which data providers and data consumers connect to for viewing, purchasing, and/or selling data. If you want to learn more, feel free to reach out to your account team or drop us an email at qldb-outbound@amazon.com. Thank you for your time today, and I look forward to helping you build out your system of record applications using QLDB.
Hello again, and thank you for these technical insights into QLDB. Earlier in the keynote, Aaron Harris referred to identity as the connective tissue for Sage Business Cloud and our mission to rethink our relationships with every individual and organization that interacts with Sage technology, and the opportunity this presents to deliver iconic moments. Let me first peel this back to some of the basics. Accounting is the process of keeping financial records. Each business records their own version of what is essentially the same event. For instance, a sales invoice will be recorded as accounts receivables by the supplier and accounts payables by the buyer. Significant effort goes into the reconciliation of the two versions, even though we're looking at one and the same event. The software developers amongst you will be familiar with the perils of code branching. This is the accounting equivalent. And what starts simple can become a very big headache when operating at scale. Scale is in fact the other point I wanted to call out for context. Here in the Northeast, Sage hardly needs an introduction. Sage was founded in 1981 by business entrepreneur David Goldman, who wanted to automate the estimating and accounting processes in his printing company, along with Graham Wiley, a student from Newcastle University, and Paul Muller, an academic. They then realized that other businesses could benefit from this too. From these humble beginnings, Sage has grown to become a global technology leader, helping over 3 million small and medium-sized businesses and non-profits to manage their finance, operations, and people. The founders had a SaaS mindset long before the term was invented. Their focus on business outcomes through customer support was unrivaled in the industry. Today, Sage is a genuine SaaS business. Cloud computing has not only enabled a different software delivery model, but also allows to connect businesses and individuals in new ways. The network effect is amplified by the scale of Sage's operations. To give you the general idea, 28 million people are paid through Sage, actually 1 in 3 in the UK, and we estimate that our solutions generate in the region of 13 billion invoices every year. This is the market opportunity Sage Business Cloud addresses. And it brings me back to the subject of trust. Business requires trust, and trust is at the heart of Sage's brand promise. Customers entrust Sage with their data and processes. HMRC trusts Sage to keep businesses compliant. Banks trust Sage to facilitate secure payments. Businesses trust Sage to get the VAT right. Business owners trust accountants to manage their operations with Sage. Buyers trust invoices generated by Sage. Employees trust payroll calculations powered by Sage. Mortgage lenders trust Sage to provide accurate proof of payroll earnings. Office admins trust Sage to support them when they need it. We're in a trust business. But much of this trust is intangible and contextual. There's good news on the productivity front in that many repetitive business processes can now be automated, assisted by machine learning technologies that can handle classification and data extraction. For instance, Automating the accounts payable process we touched on before can significantly reduce errors, improve internal controls, and optimize cash flow. If supplier and customer agree to link their accounts, this can be done completely frictionless and in near real time. But here's the bad news. If a system cannot trust the data inputs because trust between parties is implicit and dependent on contextual knowledge, automation, no matter how sophisticated, is going to hit the ceiling. Dedicated trading and procurement platforms are a conventional way of resolving the trust challenge. These act as trust authorities, whereby trust is secured through a managed onboarding process. The model works for large organizations, but innately discriminates against smaller market participants. Small businesses do not have the means of implementing a procurement platform for their own benefits, and working with any buyer-enforced platform creates friction. A further concern is that trading platforms require parties to share who trades with whom, when, at what price and quantity, trade confidential information businesses may not wish to disclose to a third party. Wouldn't it be more desirable to leverage network effects that already exist, where the trust is inferred from network insights, in other words, facilitated trust rather than assigned? This leads us to Trust Fabric, a technology that does exactly that. Facilitate trust based on existing networks and mapping relationships with implied trust to a cryptographically verifiable fabric that allows participants to securely transact, process, and automate. Before we go to a real-world application of Trust Fabric, let us look at some of the fundamentals. Any business transactions can be represented as a JSON document. This might be a plain JSON object, a PDF file with embedded UBL, or simply a transaction stored in a relational database and serialized to JSON on the fly. Any such document recorded in the Trust Fabric will prove provenance of the document, i.e., who within the fabric created it, actuality of the document, i.e., at what point in time it existed, integrity of the document, i.e., that it wasn't tampered by a rogue actor, and assertions recorded against the document, an important concept I will return to shortly. Being able to determine provenance, actuality, integrity, and assertions programmatically opens a wide range of use cases. Tackling invoice fraud alone is a problem that cost UK businesses in excess of £93 million in 2018. For the US, the FBI quoted a figure of $1.3 billion for the same period. Other examples are eliminating manual steps in the financial audit, instantly verifying a payslip for a mortgage application, providing evidence when a tax return was filed, allowing a lender to register a loan against an invoice. These are just a few. Also think of the multitude of applications in supply chain and manufacturing. Programmable trust is a very powerful concept. To understand how a trust fabric works, let me step you through the scenario of Sage Accounting, a cloud application used by over 280,000 businesses and accountants. Each business, represented by a tenant in Sage Accounting, registers a public profile in the trust ledger of the fabric. At a minimum, this is a name and a business address, but can include additional information such as VAT number, bank details, and network insight-based assurances such as last tax filing date. Sage Accounting subsequently records any business exchange transaction in the trust ledger by calculating a hash over a canonicalized JSON representation. We then have an immutable proof who originated the document and when it was recorded. We have not recorded what the transaction contained and who the recipient was, which is crucial to maintain trade confidentiality and comply with data privacy laws. So what happens on the recipient side? The recipient, in fact any party in possession of the document, can recalculate the document hash, present it to the public endpoint of the issuing trust fabric, and get the proof that it was created, when it was created, by whom, and whether any later assertions were recorded. Let me illustrate this with the help of two diagrams that look at the exchange of an invoice document between supplier and buyer. This diagram here shows what is currently involved. As noted earlier, there is a lot of contextual knowledge the recipient user applies before posting and paying an invoice. Can I trust the sender? Do the bank details on the invoice match those on record? Is there anything in the document that does not look plausible? Could it have been paid already? Compare the same scenario, now powered by Trust Fabric. With the document hash recorded in the trust ledger, the recipient, or preferably the recipient's accounting system, can now evaluate the trustworthiness of the invoice and pass the document through to the posting and payment steps. As a member can now programmatically engage with the trust fabric of a network, two advanced features become interesting. The first is document assertions. Sometimes it is necessary to disclose subsequent events associated with a document to all parties. For instance, a credit note related to an invoice, a status that an invoice was paid, or a loan registered against an invoice. Assertions create a chain of trust for individual transactions. This can be crucial information for a third-party auditor, or simply to facilitate cross-organizational workflows. The second feature concerns the federation of trust fabrics. This is to improve interoperability between trust fabrics. Without going into much detail, it simply means that the members of one trust fabric can trust those of another, for instance, to support document assertions. Amazon Quantum Ledger Database is the technology foundation of Trust Fabric. The integrity and auditability of a trust fabric is predicated on a ledger that is immutable and cryptographically secure. In addition, it must support high transaction throughputs and peak loads of the order of magnitude we looked at earlier. We evaluated classic blockchain frameworks such as Hyperledger and Ethereum, which can also be used to provide transparent, immutable, and cryptographically verifiable transaction ledgers. However, one of the core principles of Trust Fabric is the idea of adding a trust layer to an existing network. In other words, an environment like Sage Accounting is from the outset a centralized, trusted entity. It does not require the decentralized ledger and consensus of classic blockchain implementations. A private blockchain would be possible, but expensive to operate from a compute and latency perspective, expensive not only from an economic but also environmental perspective, i.e. carbon footprint. These are all issues Amazon QLDB avoids. QLDB has additional benefits in that it provides a familiar SQL querying interface, and for audit purposes, that it operates at arm's length through a trusted third party, namely Amazon. Let me summarize. We started with the conundrum of accounts receivables and accounts payables being two sides of the same coin, yet generating a disproportionate part of the accounting workload. Part of the problem can now be automated thanks to the progress in machine learning technologies, but the fundamental trust problem remains, only amplified by cyber risks. With the Trust Fabric, Sage has developed a technology concept to overcome this problem and facilitate trust in the Sage business community. However, no vendor is an island, and there are many other networks in existence that could benefit from this concept. Allowing trust fabrics to interoperate would make business better for everyone. What is more, in Amazon QLDB, the Trust Fabric has a potent technology foundation and partner who can work across the industry. So, if you're interested in collaborating on Trust Fabric, we would love to hear from you. Provided enough interest, we commit to publishing the relevant code and specifications under open source and/or Creative Commons. We have created a public GitHub repository at /sage/trustfabric where you can follow our progress and get in touch with us. This concludes part 2 of the session, and I now pass on to Kate, who will talk about the collaboration with the University of Sunderland. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Kate McFarlane. I'm a senior lecturer at the University of Sunderland. I lead the Software Enterprise Project module as well as other modules on software engineering and artificial intelligence. Our faculty is passionate about transformative industry-led curriculum that gives our graduates an insight into and practical experience of the very latest and emerging technologies, methodologies and professional standards. This module fully embraces that ethos. It sits in the second year of the student's honour degree programme. It starts in late January and runs until the end of May. It's been developed to offer our students the opportunity to work with industry partners to develop a working software artefact in response to a developed project brief. This year we have 90 students on the modules. I sort them into teams of around 7 or 8 and post the team information so they can get together before the module starts. This is probably the part the students dislike the most about the module. They would obviously prefer to work with people they know and people they trust. But if that happens, I could not ensure that the teams were fair and balanced, and some students would no doubt suffer for this. As you can see, we don't have a lot of time to work on the product. 12 weeks may sound like a lot, but the students are working on other modules and obviously have other commitments. They only really have about 8 to 10 actual working days to complete the project, although as is the case with everything, some groups will do more and some will do less. This year's module was impacted by us having to go into lockdown and having to learn to work remotely. We did give the students a little more time to work on things because of that. The benefits of the modules to our students is multifaceted. They get to practice all of the software development tools they've learned in a live competitive scenario. We tell them at the outset that one group from each project area will be named the winner by the client, not the teaching team. This means that they can get a different perspective on the work and hear a hopefully similar, but much more contextualised reflection on their skills and performance from experts in industry. However, we're not simply talking about code development here. Students must meet, discuss questions and make decisions in a professional and collegiate and organised way if they are to be successful in their endeavours. They are made aware that through this module and the associated showcase that previous students have gone on to secure industry placements and even graduate positions through their work on this module. We hope to give them a holistic view of all of the elements that go into a successful project, with quality deliverables developed on time and within budget. I also teach all of our first years the software development part of their course, and they thoroughly learn quickly the mantra that time is money. I tend to work with industry contacts from about October through to December to identify relevant projects for the module and help them then develop project briefs. Because we offer a range of degrees across computer science, web and mobile development, games development, and networks and cybersecurity, I try to lock in 2 or 3 projects that cover software development, security, and game development. There is an element of web design that's embedded throughout all of the projects built into the assessment deliverables, but I'll talk a bit more about those later on. I have a team of 6 lecturers on the module. So we allocate 4 student teams to work on each project area and assign 2 lecturers to kind of supervise those groups in an advisory capacity. Sunderland is lucky in that we have a wealth of software companies in our general area, and this means that we can draw upon industry speakers from very recognisable and successful software development companies, like the ones here on screen, to help contextualise some of the things we deliver as part of the module. These include things like developing a project pitch, agile in action, user stories and testing, and project and resource management. I was lucky enough to be put in touch with Chris from Sage, who had quite a few project ideas. We settled on one initially, but the project had other areas of development. So we ended up splitting the 4 groups working on the Sage project into 2 groups of 2, so that we could complete 2 parts of the Sage Trust Fabric project. The first part centered on developing the Trust Fabric library and associated application backed by a ledger database. This application was to run in the AWS proof of concept environment provided by Sage. This project was very exciting to us and the students working on the project, because they wouldn't normally get a chance outside of a placement or an actual job to work on software and systems in this way. The second project asked students to develop a user interface that could be embedded within existing websites to provide a clean and comprehensive visualization of a rich set of secure information about a document and its creator. The assessment deliverables for the module seek to enhance the practical work by ensuring adherence to the software development lifecycle, but it does this without being too prescriptive in how the students should achieve that. Part A and Part B are both group submissions. Part A captures initial client consultation, early design documents, and seeks to challenge students to think more about the business end of software development by looking at how the product and the business will be marketed effectively in order to secure a return on investment. Part B captures the final phase of development, featuring a completed promotional website, a report on client interaction, and the prototype system itself. How they demonstrate that to the client is also captured. They also create a poster for the showcase, but unfortunately we're not able to have the showcase this year. For both Part A and Part B, there are elements of peer marking, and this is seen as a real strength of the module. Students evaluate themselves and their teammates across a range of areas, and this has a direct impact on the spread of marks allocated to each group member. Part C of the assessment is an individual piece of work that asks the students to reflect on their experience and performance in the module, as well as provide a portfolio of evidence of their individual contributions. There are 5 interaction points where clients and students meet for feedback or presentation of ideas. Luckily, this has been maintained throughout the lockdown in a remote way, and I must thank Chris and his team for making themselves available and being very flexible with our students. The excellent standard of feedback they have provided to the students at each phase has helped them produce some very good work and has allowed them to develop themselves academically and professionally. Here I wanted to show you a selection of team outputs that were created to showcase their work. Team 1, Avenue Development, were selected as the winning group overall. Their poster showcases elements of their finalised application and how they work together to meet the project brief. Team 2 presents a demonstration of their working application prototype presented to Chris and the team at Sage.
We can just simply enter the organization ID and password. And when we click login, this actual system opens up, actual form opens up. And what we need to do here, what we can do here is we can select a file from here and anything we want. To be honest, I'm just gonna select server simulated Python file. When I click open it, what I can do with this file is I can either extract the details if that's been entered before, or I can enter details for the file. Let's enter details first. I will enter document ID, artifact ID, name. I'll just put my name, document type, just a document, citations, test. I'm just gonna put test there. Artifact studios will be active. And when I click thing we want, to be honest, I'm just gonna select server simulated Python file.
Team 3, or TSG. Here we see a snippet of the recording of their final demonstration to Chris and the team.
We used PHP, and what it does is just basically it loops through every document, obviously with the relevant information, and it sorts it out in here.
Here we have a shot of the web-based application developed by Team 4. This part of the application is providing users with information about Trust Fabric. I thought I would also share some of the comments individual students have made in reflecting on their work. The students clearly experience a boost in confidence and professionality by being able to work with the team at Sage. As you can see, this collaboration between the university and Sage achieves the aim of giving our students an insight into working in industry and feel better prepared for going into the workplace. Finally, the teaching team and students from the Faculty of Technology at the University of Sunderland cannot thank the teams from Sage and AWS enough for working with us and giving our students the opportunity to work on leading edge development platforms in this way.